one of the things that actually ties into what I wanted to ask you next is that Truman was a huge reader. He was obsessed with Marcus Aurelius. He writes in one of his letters, those sort of virtues of wisdom and courage and justice and temperance. He learned that from the sort of the education that he gave himself. He's one of the last presidents to not go to college. And so I wondered what you thought of that famous quote from Truman. He said, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. And that strikes me as something very true about your life as well.
The value quotient of reading for me was probably different than Truman's, but in the moments of quiet during the day when I think back about my life and reading and so forth, I find the early origin about reading came from my grandma. When I was a little boy, my grandma used to make me sit and watch her cook in the kitchen. My grandma never got past 8th grade, but she had common sense. And so she would make me sit there and watch her cook. And so it turned out, as I realized in my adult life, it was a classroom. She was teaching me how to cook by observation, and then she would have conversations with me while I was sitting there. And so one time she said to me, she said, George, she said, back in the days of slavery, the plantation owners used to hide their money in books. And I said, Grandma, why'd they do that? She said, because they knew the slaves couldn't read, so they would never take the books down. To me, the moral of that story was, as long as someone can control your mind, they can control your body. And so I think that was the early revelation to me. Books had to be more relevant in my life. And then I started to realize you've got a moral obligation to read, that people die to get you the right to read. If you remember your history, George, there was a time in America when it was illegal for a person to teach a black person how to read. There was a time in America when a black person could not get a library card. The libraries were segregated. People died to give me the right to read. Am I going to dishonor their deaths by not reading? I see it in a broader context than just reading to learn or reading for entertainment. I feel personally I have an obligation to honor those people's death. They died so that I could have the opportunity to read. And people ask me, when you were growing up, did you read a lot? Hell no. The only books I saw in my young life were school books. That were the only books I knew. When I was growing up as a young kid in Washington, D.C., 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, every day was about survival. When you got up in the morning, you were happy that you survived for another day. And so you get up in the morning and you look out the window in a tiptoe stance and you say, I made it another day. But it's all about survival. And so along the way, I continued to progress to where I finally get a basketball scholarship to Villanova. It really wasn't until I got to Villanova that I started to realize the wonder of reading it and how it could separate you from other people.
There's proven things that I promise you will take from this challenge and apply not just that single day, but for the rest of your life. One of the things you learn when you talk to really great readers, really great thinkers, and really great leaders is that they have a specific practice for reading, for turning those words into works, as Seneca said, turning insights into action. And so what we're going to do in this course is break down that process, how I take a book like The 48 Laws of Power, this biography of John Boyd, this biography of John D. Rockefeller, a novel like Invisible Man, and how I turn that into actionable insights in my life, how I break that down, how I organize the information, how I apply it in my life and in my writing. And we're going to learn how people like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and Epictetus and Cato and James Stockdale did this in their own life at the highest levels. There is so many insights from these people, and that's what we've built this course around. You'll get more than a dozen specific daily delivered exercises and practices about reading. We have a workbook for you to follow. We have a huge list of recommended books. We have videos from me every day breaking down these strategies from these great thinkers. We have thousands of words of original content. There's a community you can be a part of. There's proven things that I promise you will take from this challenge and apply not just that single day, but for the rest of your life. Hey, thanks for watching Daily Stoic. If you want to learn more about Stoicism, you can check out some of our other videos here. Subscribe, we'd really appreciate it. Keep learning, keep studying, and remember those 4 Stoic virtues: courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom.